After marrying into the Marquis mansion, Pei Mingyuan announced he would never take a concubine. Once I became pregnant, he catered to my every wish. Unfortunately, I had long known about his and his mistress's schemes. If it weren't to let Lina, the unborn child, enter the mansion legitimately and inherit her dowry, why would I even touch her? A merchant's daughter, how could she be the mistress of the Marquis mansion when she gives birth? The child will be thrown into the courtyard to work as a servant. Fortunately, I only married him for his title in the first place. If that's the case, my plan to keep the child and get rid of the father can be advanced. I am Zhao Yunxi, the daughter of the richest man in the kingdom. When the new emperor ascended the throne, the national treasury was empty, so my father donated nearly half of our family's wealth, filling the treasury, and announced that our family had gone bankrupt. Perhaps my father's act of poverty was too convincing. The emperor actually considered summoning me to the palace. What a joke! I'd never agree. I have two great loves in life. First, valuing my life. Second, loving money more than anything. If I entered the palace, would I ever get the chance to count money in my shops personally? And if I ever wanted to become a widow, that would be even harder. So I began searching for a dandy young master in the capital, and I found the perfect candidate. The old Marquis, who gambled, drank, and hoarded away the family fortune. The current mistress, who spent money freely without any business acumen. And the young Marquis Pei Mingyuan, who had only his looks but an empty interior. Their only useful asset was the Marquis title. The Marquis mansion was desperate for money to cover its debts, and I needed the Marquis mansion to act as a protector for my family's business ventures. Mutual benefit, what could be better? At first, my father disagreed. I had to show him a letter. Father, Pei Mingyuan is determined to marry me now. How could he let go of such a big fish like me? I had only asked someone to spread rumors in the capital that most of my father's wealth would be included in my dowry. Then I arranged a hero saves beauty scene for Pei Mingyuan. After that, he kept finding excuses to run into me, then poured out his troubles, and finally, it all fell into place. The emperor bestowed the marriage, what seemed like a match made in heaven, envied by everyone. On my wedding day, my father's hands trembled as he helped me, and in the end, he only said one thing: "Good daughter, take it easy. Don't become a widow too soon." On the wedding night, 168 sedan chairs loaded with my dowry were sent into Yongning Marquis mansion. I sat upright on the wedding bed, wearing a heavy golden phoenix crown, waiting for the groom to lift my veil. Half an hour later, instead of the groom, my mother-in-law arrived. Zhao Shi, Lady Zhao, as a merchant's daughter, you naturally don't understand the tricks of noble families. Your dowry exceeds your status. Someone, carry these things to the treasury. I will personally oversee them. Upon hearing this, I lifted the veil myself. The old Madame Pei in front of me was covered in outdated golden hairpins, looking nothing like a noble lady, exactly like the shabby portrait in my suitcase. Before I could speak, Madame Pei's expression turned horrified. She pointed at me tremblingly. On your wedding day, what kind of woman lifts her own veil? Truly vulgar. Do you think you married into the Marquis mansion for no reason? I tilted my head and thought for a moment, maybe because I have a lot of money. Madame Pei's hands trembled even more. She stumbled forward a few steps, heading straight for me. I quickly ordered Qingzhu to step forward and support her, pulling her hand down. Qingzhu had been able to lift 1,000 jin since childhood and was extremely agile. Madame Pei struggled fiercely but didn't move an inch, only turning bright red in the face. No need to trouble mother. The 4 maids by my side all served in the palace. They certainly understand palace rules and dare not overstep. However, the maid beside mother has been staring around my room since she arrived, showing no manners at all. Why don't I ask someone to teach her some proper behavior? Maid Qin once served the late noble concubine. Before entering the mansion, I already knew that the maid beside Madame Pei loved meddling. As soon as I finished speaking, Maid Sheen had grabbed the woman and was dragging her out. Don't worry, Madame Pei, teaching rules is my specialty. Madame Pei's face turned from red to green. She tried to step forward to stop them but found she couldn't move, let alone the servants she had brought. She dared not offend a maid who had served in the palace, so she could only shout at me, "Stop! This is Yongning Marquis Mansion. She is my maid, how dare you dispose of her arbitrarily? Zhao Yunxi, you disrespect the mistress of the mansion. I will tell my son to. Mother, are you going to divorce me?" My eyes lit up with a hint of anticipation. This marriage was bestowed by the emperor. Is that possible? Madame Pei fell silent. In the end, she gritted her teeth and squeezed out one sentence. Good, my son has married an excellent wife. Hearing this, I nodded in satisfaction and put the veil back on. Mother is right. I am indeed excellent. By the time Pei Mingyuan found out about this, my dowry had already been moved to my private treasury, locked with 3 heavy padlocks. The key to my private treasury was openly placed on the table. Every time he saw it, he would look in that direction thoughtfully. I guessed he was thinking about how to seize my dowry and secretly kill me, so he could marry his mistress from the back street as his wife. Yes, Pei Mingyuan had a mistress, his cousin. According to what Godan, my spy, had seen, they had grown up together, innocent and affectionate, and had long been in love. When the cousin learned that Pei Mingyuan was going to marry me, she went directly to his study to seduce him, even the day before the wedding. She told Pei Mingyuan she was pregnant and she would never allow her child to be born out of wedlock, so my dear mother-in-law told Pei Mingyuan to keep her in a small courtyard on the back street. But Madame Pei's attempt to seize my dowry had been too blatant. They didn't seem to take much action these days. But Godan had clearly said they had come up with more than a dozen ways to poison me. Then I thought my courtyard was impenetrable. Even the maid sweeping the floor knew some martial arts, and every blade of grass was registered and inspected daily. They really couldn't do much. Only Pei Mingyuan pestered me in my room every day. I went along with it, counting the days. I even spent a lot of money secretly toning his body, making him look stronger, and I had already conditioned my body to its best state before marrying, so I could get pregnant as soon as I entered the mansion. Men use them while they're useful. A month later, Qinglan felt my pulse and nodded slightly. I knew I was pregnant. When Pei Mingyuan learned the news, there was no surprise on his face. Instead, he seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. I instinctively knew this guy had finally thought of a way to deal with me. That night, I told Godan to eavesdrop outside the wall, in the mistress's courtyard. There was not only Pei Mingyuan but also Madame Pei. That bitch has only been married for over a month and dares to boss me around. We're the mistress. Rest assured, you are the only daughter-in-law in my heart. The truth was, Madame Pei had spent a lot of money on a fake antique, while my private treasury had the real one. Feeling humiliated, she hadn't let me pay my respects to her for half a month. Pei Mingyuan looked at Song Weir gently. Weir, don't worry. I will never let you down. If it weren't to let Lina enter the mansion legitimately and inherit her dowry, why would I even touch her? A merchant's daughter, how could she be the mistress of the Marquis mansion? When she gives birth, the child will be thrown into the courtyard to work as a servant. Husband, you're joking. How could we take the Taoist priest's words seriously? Song Weir looked shy, but her words were as venomous as poison, unfortunately. According to the laws of the great merchant kingdom, a married woman's dowry belongs to her personally. If she has children, it will be inherited by them. If not, the dowry can be returned to her maiden family. Otherwise, you wouldn't have to work so hard. Husband, the truth was, every night he pestered me, saying I was the love of his life. Now that the stage was set, I naturally had to finish the play. In the early stages of pregnancy, I suffered from morning sickness. Pei Mingyuan still refused to take a concubine and shared my bed every night. Within 3 days, the dark circles under his eyes grew darker, yet his reputation in the capital only grew better. Everyone envied that a merchant's daughter like me could marry into the Marquis mansion and win her husband's love. Little did they know, Pei Mingyuan only worked half a day. The other half he spent lingering with his mistress at her place, returning home only after dinner, but it didn't matter. Men would only distract me from protecting the fetus. Still, plain days needed some excitement. After Madame Pei tested me repeatedly, I handed over the key as she wished. Miss Godin said the Marquis and old Madam have left the mansion, Qingzhu reported, since old Madam got the key. She's been taking your valuables to sell outside to cover her debts. She also invited a Taoist priest to read your fetus. I adjusted my posture to sit more comfortably. Flipping through a storybook in my hand, and casually pointed to the pastries on the table. Send a message to the Marquis, tell him I'm craving peach blossom pastries from Tsueha restaurant. For half a month straight, I had Pei Mingyuan running around the capital searching for delicacies for me, leaving him no time for the back street. Everyone in the capital praised Pei Mingyuan for doting on his wife. Marrying such a man would be a lifelong regret. 2 months later, I took Qinglan to the largest jewelry shop in the capital, to browse in peace. I always used the private booth, but before I could pick anything, a voice came from behind. Shopkeeper, this magnolia carving is lifelike. How could a merchant's daughter understand its subtlety? I'll buy this hairpin. Following the voice, I saw Song Wei nearby. When she noticed me looking, she pushed out her belly as if comparing something. The shopkeeper was about to speak, but I stopped him with a look. Miss, don't you know the rule of first come, first served? I saw this first. If I don't want it, then it's your turn. Upon hearing this, Song Wei's eyes quickly turned red. You talk about first come, first served. I've waited 10 years. Why should you be the mistress? If you hadn't seduced Pei Lang and pressured him with the emperor, how would he have married a merchant's daughter like you? I'm already carrying Pei Lang's child. Your son will never be the eldest. I felt disappointed. She couldn't even keep her cool for a few more days, daring to act recklessly in front of me. It seems you're mistaken. Pei Mingyuan begged the emperor for our marriage. Besides, you have no title or status. You're not even a concubine in my mansion. How can your child be called the eldest? If he truly wanted to marry you, would he care that you're the daughter of a convicted criminal? Miss Song. Being the daughter of a convicted criminal was the real reason Song Wei couldn't marry into Yongning Marquis mansion, and it had always been her sore spot. Provoked by my words, Song Wei's eyes turned completely red. She held her waist and charged at me. Bitch, you don't deserve this. Qinglan, who had been protecting me, was about to step forward to restrain her, but I caught a glimpse of a green robe flashing past the booth curtain. Immediately, I leaned on Qinglan and stepped out of the booth. Miss Song, I don't know what entanglement you have with my husband, but I'm willing to trust him. But even if you're humiliated, you shouldn't hurt my child. With just a few words, I put her and Pei Mingyuan on the spot. People nearby quickly gathered around. Seeing this, Song Wei waved her hands frantically. No, I didn't. You fell by yourself. I just wanted to buy that jade hairpin. She had clearly come to provoke me on purpose. Her belly looking especially prominent. Many noble ladies noticed this, and whispers broke out. I wonder which family this woman belongs to. Her belly looks like it's 4 months along. I know the young Madame Pei. Did she just call the man husband? Pei Mingyuan was so desperate for a good reputation. I naturally wanted everyone to see his true colors and wake up those foolish women. I blinked back tears and said, everyone. This woman rushed up claiming to be in love with my husband. He treats me so well, so I can't believe it. There must be a misunderstanding. My husband would never keep a mistress. Please don't spread rumors. To set up this scene, I had specially asked the shopkeeper to announce new arrivals. Most of the people here were married women, who hated nothing more than their husbands keeping mistresses. After all, mistresses were usually either from poor backgrounds or afraid of being bullied by the legal wife if brought into the mansion. This made everyone look at Song Wei with even more unfriendly eyes. As an unmarried woman, she couldn't bear such stares. She stumbled, muttering repeatedly, "No, I didn't." Suddenly, a vegetable vendor woman said, "I know her. She lives in a small courtyard on the back street. A few days ago, I saw a man in a green robe go in." This confirmed it. She was indeed his mistress. Even if she wanted to marry Pei Mingyuan as his second wife in the future, it would never be honorable. Song Wei's face turned from red to pale, her lips losing all color. She hugged her belly and collapsed onto a chair behind her. "My belly hurts. It hurts so much." The man in the green robe no longer hid. He hurried toward Song Wei, but I grabbed the corner of his robe. Tears fell at the right moment. "Husband, you're finally here. My belly hurts so badly." Old Madam asked for the key to my private treasury, and I gave it to her. "You told me not to meddle in household affairs, and I agreed, but this child is my life, save him." Pei Mingyuan glanced at Song Wei, a flash of anxiety in his eyes, but his look at me was impatient. However, the ladies behind me shouted one after another, "Master Pei, is this woman really your mistress? This mistress dared to assault the legal wife. She's absolutely reckless." "Wait, didn't you hear? The Marquis mansion seized the madam's dowry and wouldn't let her manage the household, so the rumors were false. No wonder the new madam's mother-in-law's attire has improved since she married in. My God, she's wearing the Zhao family's token around her waist. This mistress is too arrogant." I couldn't hear the rest. Pei Mingyuan had already made his decision. He picked me up and pushed through the crowd. "Everyone, don't listen to one side. My wife is unwell, we're returning home first." But his weak words convinced no one. I glanced back at Song Wei. Her eyes were empty, as if wondering why her childhood sweetheart had abandoned her. Was it really that hard to guess? Pei Mingyuan had married me for my dowry, yet considered it a humiliation. He naturally didn't want my biological son around. Knowing she was pregnant, he was happy to keep her as a mistress. Even without her, there would have been someone else. At first, I hadn't cared about Song Wei. As women, we should support each other, not fight. But she was too arrogant. Before the wedding, she had sent people to defile me and even tried to disfigure me and sell me to a brothel. On my wedding day, she had poisoned the wedding pastries with a fertility-blocking drug. She had also urged Madame Pei to give me slow-acting poison. All her attempts had failed, but these constant troubles were truly annoying, hence today's scene. The doctor said I had strained my fetus and needed to take miscarriage-preventing medicine and rest in bed. Pei Mingyuan said, "My lady, I Pei Mingyuan only love you in this life. Don't worry too much, focus on protecting the fetus. There are too many people in this courtyard. Why not move them out so you can be more comfortable?" The doctor's medicine made me drowsy. I waved casually, letting him do as he pleased. But before I fell asleep, his last words sounded gritted, "My lady, I will ensure you give birth safely." When I woke up, Qinglan told me that Pei Mingyuan's servant had come. After speaking to him for a few words, Pei Mingyuan had hurried out of the mansion to the back street. In the months that followed, Pei Mingyuan seemed even more attentive and gentle. After returning to the mansion, he stayed by my side, and even personally selected 4 midwives to be stationed in my courtyard. As if the incident a while back had never happened, I didn't ask. And he didn't mention it, only sometimes. His gaze on me felt strange, but I didn't pay much attention. After the jewelry shop incident, Godin reported that Pei Mingyuan had severely reprimanded Song Wei, forbidding her from harming me again and ordering her to focus on protecting her fetus. To her, these words meant Pei Mingyuan had changed his plan. He no longer intended to swap their children. She had become a bird in a cage, with no hope of ever becoming the mistress. As Lido, the start of winter, approached, I was nearly 8 months pregnant. Madame Pei held a grand birthday banquet, and Pei Mingyuan prioritized me everywhere, as if his mistress had never existed. The previous rumors seemed to have been forgotten by everyone, and no one cared that the Marquis mansion had seized my dowry. After all, it involved their interests, but I knew these things had taken root in people's hearts, waiting for the day to burst forth. At that moment, Song Wei was waiting for Pei Mingyuan in his study. It was my kind gesture to let her in and send someone to show her the way, so I pretended to dislike Pei Mingyuan's drunken state, had him help to the study, and sent Go Dan to eavesdrop. After all, what pregnant woman eavesdrops in person? Go Dan had learned storytelling before, and his retelling was vivid. He even imitated Pei Mingyuan's voice perfectly. It was said that despite Song Wei's pregnancy, the two had hurried to be intimate. Husband, Wei is really afraid you'll forget me and our child. Only then did Pei Mingyuan reveal his plan. Wei, don't worry, the reason I've neglected you lately is to make Yun Yang let her guard down. On the day she gives birth, the midwives by her side will drug her. As soon as the child is born, she'll suffer massive bleeding. In the chaos, we can swap the children seamlessly. Unfortunately, we can't let her die directly. Her father left people in the capital to watch over her, and those maids of hers are all skilled. If things get too big, it will harm the Marquis mansion's reputation. If the emperor blames us, we might even lose the Marquis title. Of course, my father had filled nearly half the national treasury. Qingzhu, upon hearing this, crushed the cup in her hand to powder. But Go Dan's performance wasn't over yet. Everything Pei Lang does is for our future. Wei understands. Our child will definitely be the young Marquis. Go Dan said they seemed to have a fight afterward, so he stopped eavesdropping and hurried back to report. Only then did I feel something was off. Logically, with his beloved woman pregnant, how could Pei Mingyuan not control himself? But it had nothing to do with me. I'd rather sleep than worry about them. Miss, I have 10,000 ways to make Pei Mingyuan disappear. Why won't you let me act? I smiled and opened the small box hidden under the bed, taking out a piece of gold and placing it on my belly. Silly Qingzhu, didn't father tell me not to become a widow too soon? Besides, if something happens to him before our child is born, my mother-in-law will say our son killed his father. That won't do. Only if our son is the young Marquis will things be stable. Send a message to Maid Qin. The time has come. Our good days are ahead. Just be patient and wait. Unfortunately, someone disturbed my sleep in the middle of the night. Miss, that Miss Song sent for a doctor in the middle of the night. It seems she's having a show of blood, signs of labor. The Marquis's wine was spiked with aphrodisiacs. That's why they didn't care about her pregnancy. Now the Marquis has taken her out of the mansion. I pretended not to know and drifted back to sleep. Early the next morning, Pei Mingyuan personally brought me my usual peach blossom pastries. My lady, did you sleep well last night? I smiled and placed the box on the table. Naturally, since getting pregnant, I've been sleeping especially soundly. Did something happen in the mansion last night? Pei Mingyuan stared at me for a long time, then sighed in relief. Nothing. Today, I'll stay with you. I blinked. Husband. I know about the bond between you and Sister Song. Calculating the days, she'll be giving birth soon. Why not bring her back to the mansion? The midwives you found are the best. Sister can give birth with peace of mind. The smile in Pei Mingyuan's eyes faded instantly. Yun Yang, it was Song Wei who drugged me. That absurd night was not my doing, and her pregnancy was never my wish. But it is my child, after all. But rest assured, the young Marquis title will only belong to our child. Don't mention bringing her back again. I lowered my eyes, twisting the jade bracelet in my hand, hiding the sarcasm in my gaze. Yun Yang will listen to whatever husband decides. I only wish to stay with you and have our child grow up healthy and safe. I heard that song. Weir lay in bed all day, waiting for her child to reach full term. She even had people spread rumors outside. The new madam of Yongning Marquis Mansion was jealous and kept her husband tied to her side even while pregnant, acting immorally. I didn't care much, because something else had caught my attention. Since Madame Pei had taken control of my shops, I had been observing secretly. Recently, after she held secret meetings with other merchants in the capital, she raised the price of grain across the board. Although the increase was small, it went up every few days. If this continued, ordinary people would soon be unable to afford grain. Qinglan, make sure this letter reaches father within 2 days. Qingzhu, go out of the mansion and check. Have many outsiders been entering the capital lately? Qingzhu returned with a grim expression, and I knew things might be tricky, miss. Many commoners have indeed come to the capital recently, but because the number is controlled, there's not much commotion yet. The court has sent officials to guide them to the outskirts. I also asked around. These people fled south because heavy rains flooded their homes, and there are likely more coming. Many noble families have ordered large quantities of grain. There won't be much left for the commoners. If this goes on, something terrible will happen. I tapped the table lightly. Madame Pei's grain price hike now made sense. If they could get this information, others could too. Their price increases weren't too drastic, so the court might not have noticed yet. By the time they did, it would be too late. I had to order Qingzhu to buy grain at a price higher than the market rate and store it in different manners under various names. I worried for 2 days, and then it snowed in the capital. The snow fell harder and harder, showing no sign of stopping. On the 5th day, many houses on West Street collapsed under the snow, and more refugees arrived from other places. They settled upstream and showed no other movements for the time being. On the 10th day, the snow still hadn't stopped. The thick snow made travel impossible, but all the grain shops in the city had closed, and the few that remained sold grain at prices more than 20 times higher than usual, including my dear mother-in-law's shops. On the 13th day, the emperor ordered grain depots outside the city to be opened for distribution. Many families, eager to curry favor with the emperor, also opened their granaries to donate grain, including Yongning Marquis Mansion. Qingzhu, are all preparations done? I looked at the sky outside, feeling something was about to happen. Miss, father's people have already entered the palace to present grain. Miss, don't go to the grain donation today. Something's strange with Miss Song. She's past her due date. But why hasn't she given birth yet? I patted Qingzhu's hand. If I don't go, how will we know their plans? For the sake of face. The Pei family took out all the grain they had left in the mansion. Madame Pei insisted that I go with them. I agreed. When distributing the grain, the porridge from other families was thick and hearty, but only the Pei family's porridge was so clear you could see the bottom. The Zhao family is giving out not just porridge, but steamed cornbread too. Hurry over. I just went to call my family. Guess what I saw? The Zhao family's flag. They've transported so much grain, you can't even see the end of the line. The Zhao family, that was my father. Joy surged in my heart, but I didn't show it on my face. When Pei Mingyuan heard it was the Zhao family, his gaze fixed on me and never left. After a while, he proposed sending me back, as if today's trip was just to take me out for a stroll. But on the way, the carriage skidded on the snow and crashed violently. My belly hurts so much, my lady. We won't make it back to the mansion in time. Pei Mingyuan made a quick decision. Hurry, turn ahead, go to the private residence. The private residence was just a small cottage of Pei Mingyuan's in the suburbs, uninhabited all year round. How could I give birth there? But before I could question him, waves of pain surged from my belly. Though Pei Mingyuan held me in his arms, the cottage showed signs of recent occupancy. By the time I lay on the bed, I had no energy to think about anything else. My child was eager to enter the world. The midwives I had prepared earlier were nowhere to be seen. Only 2 women Pei Mingyuan had summoned temporarily. My maids were all kept outside on various pretexts, told to prepare hot water, towels, and other supplies. Dizzy and delirious, I seemed to smell a strange fragrance, then suddenly felt my body relax. In an instant, I thought I heard Song Weier's cries. The next second, a midwife shouted, "It's a boy, congratulations. My lady, you've given birth to a young master." The baby was taken away immediately. Pei Mingyuan looked at the child with a strange expression. He needed a son, a boy. It was supposed to be a girl. Qingzhu stepped forward and asked, "Is the lady all right?" The midwife wore a broad smile. "Currying favor, mother and son are safe. The lady is just exhausted." Before Pei Mingyuan could speak, the other woman in the delivery room shouted, My lady is having a hemorrhage. Hurry, find a doctor at once, spare no effort to save my wife." Pei Mingyuan spoke urgently, but he had no intention of coming in to see me. Instead, he hurried out. My maids, worried sick about me, had no time to stop him. Just as I thought I was going to fall asleep, a familiar voice came from outside. "How is my daughter? Divine Physician Ju, go check on her immediately." My father had finally arrived. When I woke up, Pei Mingyuan was sitting beside me, holding my hand with a loving look. "My lady, it's all my fault. If I hadn't insisted on taking you out, this wouldn't have happened. Don't worry, the divine physician said you've suffered severe blood loss, but with proper rest, you'll fully recover." I looked at my father standing nearby, and he nodded slowly at me. "Where's the baby? Where is he?" Pei Mingyuan's expression stiffened. But he went to fetch the baby himself. Despite being born prematurely, my son was healthy and well. "He looks like a little monkey," I said softly. Pei Mingyuan said nothing, but my father laughed. "This child looks just like you did when you were born. He'll grow into a handsome boy." Pei Mingyuan spoke up. "My lady, this is the Pei family's private residence. Your body is too weak to move now. Why not rest here for a while?" I nodded in agreement without hesitation. Unexpectedly, Pei Mingyuan left for the capital the next day on the pretext of official business, saying he would return in a few days. I was left alone with my son in the private residence. Miss Song Weir gave birth in the cottage next door that day. To give birth on the same day as you, she used medicine to delay labor, resulting in a difficult delivery because the baby was too large. She finally gave birth to a girl, but suffered a massive hemorrhage. They say she'll never be able to have children again. The Marquis never intended to swap the babies. After all, who swaps a girl for a boy? He had a dark face all night, and no one knew what he was thinking. In the middle of the night, he had someone send Miss Song away. Of course I knew what he was thinking. He had planned for so long, wanting a son to inherit my dowry. He never expected Song Weir to have a daughter, while I gave birth to a son. After all that anticipation, how could he not be disappointed? I nodded and told Qingzhu to find out where Song Weir had been sent. As for my father, he stayed at the cottage for a few days on the pretext of feeling unwell, but he couldn't stay too long. "Daughter, don't worry. I've prepared all your clothes and the necessary medicinal herbs, but this private residence can never compare to your own courtyard. Father, rest assured I know what I'm doing. Please be careful outside. And remember not to get close to the refugees." I looked worriedly at the grey sky outside. "Qingzhu, replace all the servants at the private residence. Anyone sent out to buy supplies must be disinfected with strong liquor and change their clothes before returning." The snow stopped, both in the capital and the suburbs. Countless frozen bodies emerged as the snow melted. When Pei Mingyuan returned, I smelled that strange fragrance on him again. "My lady, I couldn't stop worrying about you and the baby. I'll stay here with you these days, our little family." Before he could finish, I cried out, clutching my belly, "Husband, my stomach hurts." When the doctor examined me, my condition seemed to have worsened. over the next few days. I fluctuated between consciousness and unconsciousness, spending most of my time asleep. Naturally, I didn't know the world outside had changed, now that the ice and snow had melted. The water from the melted snow mixed with the bodies flowed into the rivers, contaminating the water sources. A plague was inevitable. 3 days later, Pei Mingyuan came to my room when I was awake. We were alone. I smelled that strange fragrance again. He seemed angry. "My lady, the emperor has ordered me to treat the plague. I've never been so valued. But it's a plague, how can I fight against heaven? I'm afraid this trip will be dangerous." I said nothing, just stared at him quietly. "Yun Yang, do you know, I almost really fell in love with you, but every time I look at you, I'm reminded that I'm currying favor with a merchant's daughter for money. Why does a merchant family win the emperor's favor? Why do you always have everything go your way, never caring about
skilled midwives? Do you think I'd go out with you without any preparations? This place is remote, no one will hear you even if you scream your throat raw. Women are the most vicious creatures. I never should have married you." Pei Mingyuan spat out another mouthful of black blood, his eyes filled with remorse. "I should have had someone disfigure you back then." I shrugged. "Pei Mingyuan, I gave you plenty of chances. If you hadn't groveled for money, I might have respected you a little. But not only did you do that, you even tried to have someone defile me to threaten me. Every moment with you after marriage made me sick. So I made sure to get pregnant within a month. Later, I bribed the Taoist priest and the doctors to make you think Song Waya was having a son after all. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. Everything Song Waya did, you egged her on. Coincidentally, that medicine will cause excruciating pain for 3 days. Enjoy your reunion with Song Waya." Pei Mingyuan collapsed to the ground, unable to speak another word. I ordered someone to drag him to the next room, where his beloved childhood sweetheart Song Waya sat motionless. What Song Waya would do after hearing Pei Mingyuan's words had nothing to do with me. I had a son to soothe. Later, Qingzhu reported that Song Waya had used shards from a cup in the room to end both her and Pei Mingyuan's lives. Everyone knew that Pei Mingyuan, the young marquis of the Pei family, had personally contracted the plague to help imperial physicians develop a cure, giving them enough time to create an antidote. In the end, his condition had become too severe, and he never woke up. To prevent the plague from spreading, the infected bodies had to be burned on the spot. When I returned to the mansion with my son, Madame Pei had fainted 3 times from grief. Beside her, a woman held the daughter Song Waya had given birth to. "Poisonous woman, you killed my son." "What do you mean, mother?" I stood at the mansion gate and retorted. "On that snowy day when I gave birth and suffered a hemorrhage, husband left me at the private residence to recover. How could I have influenced his actions? Besides, this mistress's daughter is already in the Marquis mansion. Could it be she's trying to steal my place?" The nearby commoners, who had long heard about the previous incidents, immediately started discussing animatedly. I remember young Marquis Pei doted on his mistress so much that he even gave her the madam's token. He probably really wanted to keep the child and get rid of the mother. The daughter of the mistress is already in the mansion, while the legal wife who gave birth to a son is being kept outside. What kind of justice is that? Thanks to the Zhao family donating grain and medicinal herbs this time. If the emperor finds out how the Pei family treated Lady Zhao, he'll definitely settle the score later. Thanks to the previous incidents, the rumors all worked in my favor. Madame Pei fainted again upon hearing this. When she woke up, she found herself paralyzed by a stroke. Condemned to lie in bed for the rest of her life, at the mercy of others, the old marquis, overcome with grief, fell and broke his leg while drunk, never able to leave the mansion again. I single-handedly took charge of the entire Yongning Marquis mansion, caring for the 2 elders diligently and treating the mistress's daughter as my own. After all, a child couldn't choose her birth. Everyone in the capital praised the Pei family for marrying such an excellent daughter-in-law. The plague in the suburbs was quickly brought under control, and the medicinal herbs my father sent played a crucial role. In recognition, the emperor conferred upon me the title of honored lady. When my father came to visit, he brought 2 bodyguards with him. "Daughter, I was worried you'd act too quickly. Now everything has worked out perfectly. You even got the title of honored lady. I can finally rest easy. So I hurried to send you these 2 bodyguards, daughter. I've asked the emperor for permission to travel overseas. Perhaps there are new business opportunities there. My father valued his life above all else. He must have made thorough preparations. Daughter will wait for father's safe return. I smiled and saw my father off. Turning around, I told the bodyguards to follow me to my courtyard. What a joke, my good days had only just begun.